Welcome, all my female disruptors. I am happy to introduce Anna Shilina. She is the CEO of Mental Health Wizardry, and she is going to be sharing her journey, her unconventional journey to mental health and wellness that took place over the past 2 years. I've known Anna for, I don't know how many years, 3 or 4 years through a mastermind that we're both part of, and we've shared some empowering stories together for sure. So Anna, I'm going to turn it over to you. And if you want to give us some background, and then also we'll get into what inspired you to write your book about mental health and wellness.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I've always had a parallel career. One was super business orientated, super go-getter, had to create the business and the success and all these things. And then on the parallel, I was studying everything I could get my hands on when it came to human behavior. So every course, every program, I was a seminar junkie for sure for many, many years. And so I've always had these parallel lives, and I never really thought that one was affecting the other. I was like, oh, I'm just doing these human behavior things and mindset things on the side because I'm so interested in human potential. I grew up in an immigrant family, which was really eye-opening to kind of the hustle of things. But then I just had a lot of questions about well, what makes us happy and what brings about a fulfilling life and all these kind of things. So that kind of led me down that path. And then eventually when I sold my one business, I decided to really go all into the mental health things and the mindset things, because I had figured out that that was the stuff that was enabling to help me succeed in my business and do well in other areas of my life. And from then on, for the last 7 years, I've been dedicating to helping entrepreneurs unlock their mental and spiritual health. And for me, mental health is broken down into two things. One, which is healthy habits, and two would be healthy relationships. And when we have these two streams in our lives optimized, and not all the time, but improved on and optimized as much as we can, I found mental health increased significantly in myself and people I've coached. And what inspired me to write the book is I was the last person that I ever thought that I'd be affected by a pandemic or global events, because I had spent decades accruing tools to be resilient and strong in my mind. And it took me a long time to recognize that I was even having depression or depressive episodes, because I was like, oh, this is indifference. I just don't care about anything anymore, and the things that used to bring me joy no longer bring me joy. And I'm struggling to get out of bed, but this is, and so I had to really consolidate that I was, I was feeling also really guilty, Lisa, because I was like, well, what do I really have to be depressed about, right? All the things, all the material things look great. Business is going great. I'm traveling. I have amazing, beautiful things happening in my life, but something was missing. And so I had a very long, 6-8 months of a dark night of the soul, where I got to be in a lot of meditation. So I'd even if I couldn't get out of bed or struggled, I'd be like, oh, okay, well then I'm out. Then I'm just, will be meditating kind of thing. And so I was not very interested in going to a doctor. I was like, okay, there must be natural ways to kind of heal these things with my mind. And once there was one day that I remember I had just woken up and this light had switched on in my brain. It was crazy magical. And I was like, I have to share what I learned, and I have to share, because I feel by sharing, I'm also honoring kind of mining the gold that I got in my darker and depressive days, and I'm able to bring that gold and that light to other people, and also like shine that torch for other people a little bit, you know. But a lot of it was like, oh, I really wish that I would have known this, and also I really wish that my friends would have known this about me, you know, because like I think a lot of the time as friends, we sometimes witness each other go through things, and then we're like, well, I don't really know, I don't want to impose on your thing, I don't really want to, I don't know how, you know, what to do. And so, and it became really clear to me that a lot of the time that when we are trying to help people, a lot of it is projecting. And it's like what I would like, you know, in terms of if I was helping someone, it's like, oh, if I'm projecting, it's like, I'm going to project what I think that I want in and how I want my needs met. But it's more about connecting and being present and in that space of love and creating that safety where you're more connecting and letting the other person, the person that's in need and is having a hard time, to tell you then, this is exactly what I need. So I'll give you an example as I wrap this question up. One example was like, you know, a lot of times a friend of mine were like, oh, let's go for a drink, for example. And I was so desperate for connection at the time that I'd like go for the drink, and it would end up making me feel terrible, like the hangover, and like alcohol as in general as a depressant. So it would just kind of like be like putting more flame to the fire. But I'd still go for the drink because that was my only like connection outlet at the time. But if that same friend would have asked me and said like, what is it, Anna, that you feel that you need right now? I would have probably said like, can someone just meditate with me for 30 minutes, like online, or, you know, or could we just like hang out online and do our respective work together? Because then I'd like have an hour of work done under my belt, and then that will help me feel better about myself and things like that. So that's just kind of like a practical example of what a lot of people kind of, or what I've had happen to me, and how I would have preferred to be kind of like handled or helped when I was going through my struggles.
It's almost like a prompt. You're like, you know, what are the right prompts for people to ask to give their friends who might be suffering, you know, give them the support that they need, and, you know, other than a drink or something, or going shopping or something that is just, you know, maybe what they normally do, they need something different. But what happens when, I mean, I feel like sometimes, like, even if they did get the prompt, if you're feeling really depressed, I mean, this has happened to me too, like, I'm just like, no, I'm fine, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and what if they don't, you know, really react to that with something that would be super helpful to them because they're such in a dark place?
absolutely, that's a great question. So the first kind of level is to create safety for someone to be truly honest, because we are like, we're very good bullshitters. We're bullshitting to ourselves. We're like, oh, it's not that bad, or it's not depression, or, you know, da da da. And also we're pretty good at bullshitting other people, especially in those states. And if you layer it with addiction, then there's lies and other things. So it's like layers of complexity when it comes to these things. But underneath it all, and this is something that drives everything that I do in life, is actually creating safety. A lot of our lives, and especially as women, we're speaking with a lot of women here today, a lot of our lives are actually dictated by the feeling of unsafety. And so one of the things, if someone's not feeling safe enough to share what their true feelings are and what they truly need, then there is nothing you can do until you create a baseline of safety, whether that is sharing from your side vulnerably, maybe there's like more vulnerability that's needed, maybe there's more time, but if someone's not ready to say what their true needs are, what that indicates to me is that they don't feel safe to do that. And my job as a friend is to then first and foremost create that safety and then have the conversation.
Since the pandemic, I mean, it's become a lot more I don't know, I guess the word is mainstream depression and anxiety. And I think that we've all, it's become more than just, it's more accepted that this could be an issue. So I think that if anything, the awareness is higher of the possibility of, having mental health issues, whether it's because of the pandemic or, now after the pandemic, for whatever the reason. What are some of tell us a little bit more about your book and maybe a couple actionable tips from your book and kind of what you learned from other people along the way.
Yeah. So one of the things that depression really taught me, and such a beautiful gift, is humility, and really understanding that I only have control of this much. I have read it like control-ish of my mind and my body, and everything else outside of that is little to zero control at all. And so it's all about, like, what is it that I am in control of, or have the perceived illusion of control, and what can I do with that control, kind of thing. Where do I point my intention? Where do I point my mind? And then where do I point my body and my action? So really getting attuned to that, and getting attuned to listening to our own authority was one of the biggest kind of like gifts as well, because since I was a little girl in school and everything, I was taught to give my authority away, like listen to the teacher and the doctor and the lawyer and and whoever else on the outside, and very little is taught to, like, well, what's the internal guidance system that I'm carrying, and that and at the end of the day, I had to listen to my internal guidance system because the external stuff wasn't working, and so it was kind of like forcing to do it, but it was also a beautiful gift. The book is The Mystery and Magic of Depression. The word magic is in there because I do mention working with plant medicines. It's not for everybody, but for those who are called to try something non-conventional, there are some things that I have tried and have worked for me, and so that's kind of like part of it, and really discovering that everything really does have, every emotion really does have a purpose, and every phase really does have a purpose. So if I was like hating on my depressive episode and go like, this is just a waste of time and this is not teaching me anything, like that would have been too productive. But really like staying in that space of like, this has something to teach me, and it's this thing where, like, when you're depressed, basically your personality or your ego is kind of like tired of playing a role. So it's like, what is this creation? What am I creating that's new, and what am I not listening to? So yeah, maybe like really slow down and humble myself and go like, well, I'm not, I can't just snap out of it, like, even though I wish I could. And I've had people, someone really close to me also, I was like, I'm struggling, I don't want to be here right now, kind of thing. And then they'd say, oh, this is just like, like whatever, like it's not, and like those kind of, like, it really hurts when someone's like, oh, that's invalid, kind of thing, so. And until I've gone through this depth myself, I couldn't really understand people who were struggling that deeply, especially because also myself, I thought I was like super privileged. I had all the things that I could possibly dream of materialistically, and I still kind of like had the opportunity to learn about my mind. And so one of the first tools in The Mystery and Magic of Depression, 7 Steps to the Other Side, is changing your environment. And so our environments are like, they dictate, basically, they build us. And so noticing, like, and even if you can't make massive changes to an environment, like small things, whether you shift something in your room, or take a different route to work, or start to maybe draw or write with the opposite hand that you usually used to, just starting to change your because what that does is that it starts to rewire your neural pathways, because basically when you're in depression, your neural pathways repeat itself on a loop, and there's no magic in terms of like, there's no expectation of something great to happen today or a miracle to show up, or like, you know, like a childlike wonder on Christmas morning. It's like, what's going to happen today? Like, we lose all of that. And so with changing your environment and changing some things and habits that you do, like brushing your teeth with your other hand, you start to open up the neural pathways that have kind of like gone dormant, and you start to like wake them up, and you're like, hey, anything's possible again, you know. Let's try, let's shift some things around. So environment would be the first and most important kind of shift.
Do you mind sharing the magic part too? Just so that you can, because the conventional in my mind, like when I say conventional, it's like, okay, you get prescribed Xanax or, you know, some sort of like a, you know, prescription drug. You know, and then there's meditation that you talked about and some of these other things, but you had shared with me, you know, when we were talking, prepping for this, just about the magic part of it that is unconventional, and, you know, whatever you want to share with that, because I think it's super interesting and it's not talked about that much.
Yeah, so for me, the magic part is the neural pathways that open up with the help of plant medicine. So psilocybin, ayahuasca, iboga, and like one, I found that even if I would have to meditate for decades to get the insights that I've gotten from, you know, 3 months of microdosing psilocybin. There's tons of studies on it these days. I have found that, you know, with prescription things, a lot of it is numbing the pain, numbing the anxiety, you know, and numbing kind of like the depression, in the sense like you're already numb, but you're numbing the connection to why it's there, kind of thing, you know. And so that's why I wanted to stay away from any kind of numbing agents, because I knew that it was getting through it, that was going to get me to the other side. And so 3 months protocols of microdosing psilocybin. It's a slow, like, it doesn't work right away. So it's not like you take something and it's like fixed, which we have this propensity to go for things that help us really quickly, and, you know, immediate gratification. And this is not immediate gratification. But then like 2-3 months in, when you wake up and like the light is on and you just have energy for the first time, you're like, wow, and like, I remember I was walking on the beach and like the bubbles in the water were like just so fascinating, you know. And so I got connected back with the magic of nature, very much so, where I was started to take a lot of things for granted. So the sun would rise, the sun would set, so what, kind of thing. And then all of a sudden, with the plant medicines and some ayahuasca journeys, things started to change. And on a neurological, on the brain wave level, I was open to the magic of creation. Like, I started to meditate on the fact that my life is a miracle, and like, you know, what do I do with that miracle, kind of thing. And so yeah, that's kind of like the magic part of it. And in those dark days, it's super difficult to see the magic, because it's like super dark, but I truly think that everything has magic in it. And the darker and more tragic and traumatic some of those experiences are, the more magic there is the more gold and magic there is for us to get.
Anna, we have 2 minutes and I have one question I definitely want to get to, and we can maybe, you know, regroup in a couple of weeks and do like a longer Q&A for everybody that was on here, but everybody's super interested. So Lubna is saying, not discarding plant medicine in any way. I heard recently that meditating for 2 weeks already leads to new neural pathways, which that is true, especially because for most plant medicine, I have heard you need a high investment in traveling to a country that lets you use it. How easy is it to get access to plant medicine? And do you mind spelling the couple names that you called out, the Ayahuasca and
Yes.
yeah.
So ayahuasca is a Peruvian plant medicine. We're very lucky in South Africa. There's a lot of practitioners who do come either from Peru or they were trained in Peru. And so we have quite a few practitioners here. It's, you know what, once you put your intention out there, you'd be surprised what kind of things come back. And obviously certain parts of the world, like I was living in Bali for a long time, it's like almost zero access to plant medicines and drugs and things like that. So yeah, it is about, you know, being in a place where you have access. But once you started like opening up your consciousness to the idea of it, you'd be surprised what possibilities come into the world, and you like things are happening maybe not too far away from you that you had no idea just because you weren't open to that frequency. So ayahuasca, AYA, Huasca, ayahuasca. The second one is iboga, which is a beautiful medicine also for addiction and lots of ailments. So that's an African-based medicine, and but like, yeah, if you just put it out there and maybe do some research, you might find it. Psilocybin is probably, or magic mushrooms is probably the most accessible because it's everywhere. Like it's almost impossible to go somewhere in the world and you won't find psilocybin somewhere, because number one, it is the largest organism on the planet, and number two, it's coming up more and more, and it's coming up for therapeutic reasons more and more, and yeah, you might be surprised just how accessible it can be when you're connected to the right person.
One more quick question. Monica is asking, do you use essential oils? She had a fabulous article on how aromatherapy and how studies show impact on mental health and psyche.
Smell is connected to survival. So our smell sense is incredibly important to us. And absolutely, I have used some cooling scents when I needed to calm down, or awakening scents when I needed to kind of like wake up. So yes, I have used them, and they do work really beautifully, and it's a great tool to have in our arsenal, and like using our senses and our bodies in general. I really love like using embodiment in our bodies and our sense and our eyesight, and to connect to ourselves and come back into the magic that is to have a beating heart and lungs that are breathing and hair that's growing and all these kind of things. And like coming back into our senses, into our body, is super powerful practice. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And a lot of what you talked about is in your book.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
You can access Anna's book. And with that, we are going to call it a wrap on this session. Anna, thank you so much. You're so inspiring. And I'm so happy to have crossed paths with you and that you are a female disruptor.
Thank you so much, Lisa. You're amazing. Sending lots of love and epic vibes. And I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.